into the unknown, into the unseen, the unexplainable, and the unbelievable. Join our strange journeys. Are you ready? Well, when did you find out about ley lines? What led you to that on the property?
Because my ex-husband was very logical and analytical, and had to have, I just believed, just because that's what I did. I just believed it and felt it. He had to have proper, I'd have it written down. So he had engineers come to the house and had it mapped out. It took years to find out. And it was actually on a cross of the ley line. If you look at that one that comes through, that 30-degree parallel that goes through, that's one of the ones that went through. And there's also this grid that comes through that you showed, the globe that you showed last week.
Yeah.
That has those spheres around it. Those are what they call the Mary and the Michaels. Those are the opposite polars, and where they cross, that opens up that vortex, in my mind, anyway.
Right.
It may not be, but that's what the civil engineers had said. Because why we couldn't get paint to stick to the wall, why we couldn't get anything to stick to the floor, why we couldn't, it was just kind of this house that was going to be what it was going to be. And they tried to logically and analytically explain it. And it was like, nah, man, this is just a spirit-filled house,
Wow. Filled with all kind of spirits.
It was. And I thought it was great.
Now, when you were doing the four corners of the compass, was that kind of like a divining to find the ley line? Or not that you knew ley lines, but
no, I just had a bunch of crap tile that I thought I wanted this really cool mosaic, because it was kind of underneath the patio area, and I thought this would be a great place. If it's inclement weather, I can still do my circles and all that kind of stuff. And just threw the compass down, and boom, it was immediately exactly where we had thrown it down. And it was north, south, east. It was just in the exact perfect area where I had wanted it to go. But the first time we threw the compass down, it read immediately to the north. And and it's still there to this day. I sold the house 15 years ago, but it's still there. I go creep on it every now and then, because people really can't get it. They're not really too fond of us, people walking up and down the stairs in the middle of the night and not know where they come from. But it's still there. And I think just because I put the northern compass there, so it's not, it doesn't look witchy or anything. It's very, geometric and geographic. Right. Yeah.
So do the current owners experience some of the similar things?
I don't know about the current ones. I know that there's two sellers that have been in between that did, because they called. They did call, and we had to disclose that in the selling papers, that it was certifiably on the record as being a haunted house.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Nice. Yep. And
there were several people that could not do it. And there's an Asian couple that's in the house now. I've never met them or spoken to them. Since Hurricane Michael, I went by to check on it. And I want you to know, all the trees in the area, because it was in between two sets of woods. I'd purchased both sets of wood so that there wouldn't be anybody living around. It's in the middle of downtown Panama City, and had a cute little gazebo out back with a little fairy with a little wand on the top and the globe and all that. Trees had come down, didn't touch the house. Didn't touch the wand. The glass on the wand is still there. Did not touch that house. That house was protected by something.
Wow. Now
Yeah.
you said there were locations in the house that would have it was like different zones or something as far as energy.
There were hot spots and cold spots. There were some spots that felt a little looking.
Yeah.
You go in there and it felt a little darker, a little negative. I mean, I'm getting choked up now thinking about it because it was, there were just areas of the house that just felt like they were a little darker than the rest.
Oh,
You go in and you got to turn the light switch on. You'd feel a hand on your hand turning on the light switch.
Oh, wow.
That's out it, but didn't bother me so much as guests. But that was a little dark, and that was one of the rooms where paint wouldn't stick to the wall, carpet wouldn't stay down, tile wouldn't stay down. It was just its own little,
amazing.
Did you have any troubles with magnets?
I'm sorry?
Like, did you ever have any troubles with magnets?
Oh, yeah.
On the fridge or anything?
Oh, yeah. You could take them and they would repel each other. Even if they were supposed to come together, they would repel. You could scoot them across the floor, which made me feel like it was more magnetic based than it was monolithic, origin based. Like it wasn't between Stonehenge and the pyramids. This was something magnetic in the ground. It had to have been, in my mind.
Well, it's like in our fairies show, Elizabeth Parker talked about thin places. And it sounds like that's a vortex is a thin place. And
where a veil is thin, you mean?
Yeah, well, it's a thinning between dimensions.
Right, the veil is thin.
Where you can see through or something can come through. And, they're saying, the research I've done, that when two ley lines intersect, they create that vortex or that thin place.
Exactly.
And you think that's what you had on that property there?
I know it was. There's no doubt in my mind.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the story about the puppies, I mean, that's amazing. I
wanted to you talk about those cats, that video where the cats were. If we had video phones back then, which we didn't, you hear the puppies just, in the middle of the night. They'd be, and I'd creep downstairs to look, and they'd all be focused at something, barking at something, and there was nothing there to be seen. And that's why I was telling you, if you can get a hold of, and I don't know that they're still in print, but the series, the Ghost Chronicles, we had written, and the first one, especially called User Friendly, was all those actions in there actually happened in that house. And the cat called Prissy, well, I actually named her Pissy just because she was. And in the book, her name was Prissy, and she was just like that one in that video a while ago, Dagny. It was exactly like that. She could see things, and she would just, they see before we do, for sure. Yeah.
Well,
and we had videos taken, and you could see full body apparitions walking back and forth. We had numerous videos, numerous photographs, orbs, people coming over and saying, please come show us yourself. And boom, there's an orb in their hand. I still have photographs.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I don't, to me, it's not, again, a matter of belief. It's just, I know it was there.
Well, I wanted to show y'all something that I came across, the U.S. Geological Survey. And this is magnetic anomalies. This is put out by the government. This is their magnetic anomaly. If you see over on the left, the legend where the light, like a pink up top, is the strongest and the blue is the weakest. Just look at some of the areas. Let's see, you were down in Panama City.
Mm-hmm.
That's right in this area,
right
isn't it?
Yep, right there where all those bayous are. Yep.
There's a lot of pink there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pink
activity. Let me just say, a lot of UFO activity. I've gone here to Gulf Breeze and, spoken with Walt and all the big, Bubba and all the big UFO people there.
Yeah.
Because the continental shelf drops off right there.
Right.
So that also creates a lot of interest by alien, and supernatural stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a lot of sightings around here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Around the panhandle of Florida.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to show y'all. I mean, that was put out by the government saying,
Yeah.
here's some magnetic anomalies.
Yeah.
Another one I wanted to show y'all. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, this one. All right, what you're looking at is Leylandsnet, and it's an interactive map where you can go over on the left there. You see add data, and I've already added a bunch of things. Look at where all the lines converge.
See, those are what I have been known as the Mary and Michael lines that are positive and negative, yin and yang. That's the map I was thinking of.
Right. Well, this is, I'll just put the caveat out there. This is Leylands.net, putting where they think ley lines are. Okay. But what's unique is the convergence. Look at that convergence down there. And I've also highlighted the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know what's going on there in Tennessee and Kentucky, but they've got a convergence. And up there around Nova Scotia,
where the hanging rocks are.
Yeah. Yep. But also, down in central Mexico and out there in New Mexico. I mean, they have some serious convergences. And look up there in Canada, they got a big one. And there's the Alaskan Triangle. I mean, I wanted to show y'all. Where did it go?
Yeah.
Look at this one in England. Well, actually, that's in France, the major convergence there.
Whoa.
But, I mean, that's a big one in France.
That's another load right there.
But here, you've got, what is that? Is that Stonehenge? That's Glastonbury Tor. And then you got, I think, one of these is, that's the Gizeh Corridors. Salisbury Cathedral. One of these is Stonehenge. Yep, there it is. But again, that's this website's versions of what they think is going on. And there was one other I was going to show you. What is this one? Whoop, no, that's not it. I meant to close that one out. Yeah, there it is, Vortex Hunters. And this one is a page called Vortex Hunters, where they're listing, different. It's one of those maps that's, to me, the technology is not that great on it, but there was one down in Florida that y'all may be interested in. I don't know if y'all have heard of this one.
Casa del Fuego.
Well, there's this Tate's Hell State Forest.
Yeah.
Now, they say there's an energy vortex there.
Yeah. Don't even talk. I won't even go through there anymore.
Really?
No. Yeah. No. Been snatched there a couple of times. That's another show altogether.
Yeah. I mean, the Sloss Furnaces in Birmingham. Stone Mountain, they say, is an energy vortex. Fort Mountain. The Georgia Guidestones, they say that's an energy vortex.
Yeah.
But that's vortexhunters.com. Y'all can go to these sites if you like and do your own little research. And
so that's, I don't know why, but while you were mentioning it, I just looked it up. Easter Island falls on a ley line.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I was just curious about that suddenly.
Yeah.
Well, Halton Castle, as we were talking about, here's some more comments. Let's see what. Okay. Halton Castle, they're northwest of London. Sir John de Widdrington, during the 15th century, was lord of the castle, and he had a prisoner in the dungeons, and he had to go away for a while, and he forgot to leave instructions to his servants to feed and water the prisoner.
Oh man.
So when he comes back, obviously the prisoner has died. And some months later, they begin to hear moans and screams during the night. And it got so bad that they brought in a local rector to do an exorcism. And it seems it was successful, but the rector left his Bible there to protect the castle. Now, they must have used it because at some point they sent the Bible out for rebinding. And as soon as it left the castle, the moans and screams began again. So they got the Bible back pretty quick. It's like that Bible's got to be back in the castle. Now, in the 1970s, author and researcher Paul Devereaux discovered a ley line running through the local village of Beresford directly to Halton Castle. Now, Dagny, which I had a picture of Halton Castle. That's the castle there. Now, Dagny, you wanted to tell us about the Ram Inn?
Yeah, I'll read up on that for you.
I've seen it on several ghost hunting shows.
This is my first time hearing about it when you introduced it to me.
Yeah.
The Ram Inn, the website, all that's interesting in their article, the 11 real life ghost stories that that'll have you sleeping with your lights on. It describes the Ram Inn, Watton-under-Edge. How did you say that? Gloucester?
Gloucester.
England?
Yeah.
A former priest residence built in 1145, the inn is not only the oldest building in town, but also situated precisely where two ley lines meet. Some claim that the inn's positioning along these two ley lines coincidentally leads directly to England's Stonehenge, and must thus be a place of strong spiritual energy. Combined with a 5,000-year-old pagan burial ground beneath its floors, the ancient Ram Inn certainly has the makings of a paranormal place. The inn formerly housed slaves and workers who built the nearby St. Mary's Church. Streams on the inn's grounds had to be rerouted around the church's site, and many believe this diversion of water is in part responsible for exposing the area to dark energy. As if that wasn't enough, the inn is also reportedly haunted by a witch who sought shelter there before being caught and murdered. She was burned at the stake in the 1500s and is now said to haunt the room she once stayed in, aptly called the Witch's Room. The inn's sole owner and occupant, John Humphreys, claims he was first introduced to the inn's non-corporeal occupants on his first night as its owner in 1968. He said he had just gone to sleep when a demonic presence ripped him out of bed by his arm and pulled him across the room. Now in his 80s, that'll wake you up. Now in his 80s, he's committed the rest of his life to maintaining the inn rather than running away from it, which most of us probably would have done half a century ago. Perhaps most depressing is the fact that Humphrey's wife and 3 daughters decided to do just that, leave him alone on the property. Humphreys also claims to have found evidence of spiritual sacrifice and devil worship underneath the staircase, where he reportedly saw the children's bones punctured with daggers.
Oh my goodness. Some weird stuff went on there. Gosh. But it's sad that I mean, there obviously was more going on, but his wife and daughters left him there. Again, we don't know the whole story, but it's just kind of depressing that, you know, he's there by himself and has to deal with all this. Yeah, I've seen this one on a couple of different shows, which y'all know you've heard me say this on the show before. I don't really watch a lot of the mainstream ghost hunting shows. I may check out some of the new ones to see if they're above board or whatever, but most of them I don't. I remember this was from a couple of years back that I saw this one. But ley lines have also been equated or related to UFO sightings and crop circles. You mentioned it before. I mean, was it? I think Gulf Breeze, Florida, is like the
It's
UFO
a very
capital
well-known,
of Florida.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
well-known UFO sighting area.
Yeah, and I've gone over there a couple times to watch, and I have to say that in the other house, there were at least 4 accounts in the 20 years that I was there of sightings and things happening there.
Yeah.
And you know, I had a chat with one of your other members the other day, and I'm not sure that it has anything to do with the ley lines or whether it has to do with now they know we can see them, so they keep coming back. Again, that's not something that's ever scared me. I just was always fascinated and ooh, pretty, you know, that kind of thing. You know, there's been once or twice that you know, made me jump back, and then the next, you know, after being displaced, you know, 150 miles to the west of where you were 30 seconds
Wow.
earlier, it'll kind of make you think twice.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there's those things, but again, I don't know that those are related to ley lines or not. To me, it was more the magnetics and the vortex allowing spirits in. Now, spirits and UFOs, that can be all the same thing. I don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
But
We
but
don't.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
all of that stuff is attracted to, and they could be wormholes. You know, the word vortex can open up a lot of different, you know, go into different dimensions, and that's why there were so many spirits that did come through at different times. I mean, you know, we had people come in that tried different things, everything from Ouija boards, and we've seen the board fly out from underneath them. You know, to the point that it wasn't demonic; it was magnetic. You know, I mean, I have a really hard time with people saying it's demonic. It's no, you're scared of it. That doesn't make it demonic. You know what I'm saying? Really try hard to keep that term at bay.
I get.
All
right. When we mentioned the Georgia Guidestones a while ago, Lewis put this up. The Georgia Guidestones are a set of stones erected in the East Georgia in the 1970s by a mysterious group. The Guidestones are engraved in multiple language with suggestions to guide humanity. They are built on a piece of farmland and that are positioned according to the cosmos. They are said to be located near the Cherokee's center of the universe. He says the stones were erected near Elberton, Georgia, which has many granite quarries.
That they basically call the
American Stonehenge?
No. No, the American Stonehenge is in New Hampshire. These are a set of guide stones. They're like, well, he put a link down there for Wikipedia, but they're not copying anything. They're just these giant stones set up with writings in different languages of kind of like the 10 Commandments: be good to each other, treat each other with respect, positive things like that. And nobody knows who did it.
Oh, wow.
And that website we were at called that an energy vortex. So yeah, that's why Lewis was commenting on it. I mean, he's from Georgia, so he's probably been there. Which you reminded me, we were talking about the American Stonehenge up in the Northeast. We've got one in South Alabama called Bamahenge, and I think it's just big foam cutouts, but it's what they did. They replicated Stonehenge. Is all they did, and
that's funny.
And it's not even a tourist attraction because it's just out there by the side of the road, and they don't charge anything. It's just somebody wanted to put it up there, so they just put a Stonehenge out there by the road.
I want to go see that.
Well, right down the road is a couple of somebody also built some life-size dinosaurs. So, yeah, we were going to go look at all that last weekend, but the rain held us off. All right, we were talking about crop circles. Now, MJ Wayland, he has mjwayland.com, had an article on Silberry Hill, and there's a ley line. He talks about a ley line passing through the Stone Circle complex at Ava Brewery, running 13 miles from Halton Castle to Martin Henge. And this crop circle was seen right close to Silberry Hill. Now, strange sounds, celestial lights, crop circles, electromagnetic effects, ghosts, black dogs, folklore, energy lines, ancient site, UFO landings, humanoids, invisible walkers, geophysical strata are all a part of this, according to him. And it's just a few miles from the Avery. I keep having trouble pronouncing that. Avebury. Yeah. It's a place of mystery for both historians and New Agers alike. The hill is the largest man-made mound in Europe, being 130 feet high and covering 5 acres at its base, and is estimated to have taken 18 million man-hours to construct. And a ditch surrounds it, but it one time could have been filled with water. He's making the supposition could it have been some sort of Neolithic temple, But let's see. Oh, I forgot to show you one on that Ley Lines map, but there's a place in England called the Broadhaven Triangle where they saw a lot of things. Now, we've already mentioned Stonehenge a couple of times. There it is. And like I said, they have somebody just for fun built a replica of it in southern Baldwin County in Alabama. Now, the Herald Scotland website has an article where researcher Roland Watson said his research found, now get this, 43% of the sightings of Nessie, as the Loch Ness Monster, have occurred over the years within 100 meters of a ley line. And 62% occur within 200 meters of a ley line. Isn't that wild? He also calculated the odds of such sightings occurring randomly as 99 million to 1. Wow. Okay, he's saying that there's something behind this. And to quote him, he said, the question is, do Nessie sightings depend on ley lines? Are they attracted to ley lines, or is it all just statistical coincidence? Who knows? He said, it is not folklore.
Vortex?
Huh?
Couldn't they be slipping through a vortex just like the Sasquatches? Don't you
That's
think they're
theory.
there and they're not?
Yep, that's a theory I've heard on Nessie and Bigfoot. You're right. That's a very real possibility. He said, he goes on to say, it's not folklore. It is not all speculation. There are a bit of hard numbers involved. I mean, he basically saying he's done the math. Now, there is a production company called Small Town Monsters. Before we go, wow. Lewis says he's been to Ava Brewery.
Oh, wow.
It's a small town near Stonehenge surrounded by circles of large stones. That is so cool, Lewis.
Yeah, it's got the
and hopefully you know how to pronounce it. So when you're on the show in 2 weeks, you can tell us how to accurately pronounce it, because I feel like I'm slaughtering it. But I was going to say there is a film company called Small Town Monsters. If you look for them on Amazon Prime, you'll find all their movies. They've done the Minerva Monster. They've done Mothman, a couple of movies on Mothman. They've done the Flatwoods Monster, but they also did one called Invasion on Chestnut Ridge, southern Pennsylvania, southwest Pennsylvania. There's a ridge where multiple sightings have taken place. The Kecksburg UFO crash, the Uniontown Bigfoot and UFO sightings. There have been encounters there with a large prehistoric bird in the Keystone State Park. It just got me to thinking. I was watching that movie and I was like, I wonder if that's a ley line, because all this activity is happening in one general location along a ridge. Now, could there be, I found this other story about a ley line that just kind of blew me away. As we bring in Chestnut Ridge, a guy named Timothy Brian McKee is a columnist for Richland Source, an online newspaper. he said that at one point back in the 90s, he was working on the Malabar Farm in Ohio. It's just west of Pittsburgh and the Chestnut Ridge. And he was told by other workers that had been there longer about this secret spot on the Malabar Farm. And there had been a blight come through during the 1800s that literally destroyed most every chestnut tree in the area. But there was one spot on this farm where one lone chestnut tree survived. And the workers at the farm kind of held it as a revered spot, a sacred spot. He sensed the reverence that other workers held for the tree. And it was some time after working there that they actually felt comfortable enough to show him their little secret spot with the chestnut tree. And at some point, some visitors from England showed up at the farm and began to explain to him, as he got to know them, that they were following ley lines. Now, he didn't say this in the article, but I began to wonder if they were what's called geomancers, and we'll talk about geomancy in a few minutes. But basically, they were following the ley lines, and a ley line had led them to the Malabar Farm. He said, this Timothy, the author, asked if they could show him, where the ley lines were, and they seemed hesitant at first, but as they warmed up to him, that they realized that he was taking them seriously and wasn't going to make fun of them. So they said there was not just one ley line going through Malabar Farms, but two. And so they pulled out some dowsing rods, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit too. And he followed them along as they followed the dowsing rods. Now, he was amazed that when he reached the convergence of the two ley lines, a vortex, guess where they were? At the old chestnut tree. He said the convergence was within 6 feet of the old chestnut tree. He concludes the article by saying the ley line people knew nothing about the chestnut tree, and the chestnut tree people knew nothing about the energy vortex. So how did both groups lead me to the exact same spot in the woods from different directions? Has the tree survived because it is standing at a curious crossroads of life forces that are still as yet off our grid of understanding? Folks, y'all, unless you have ever studied ley lines, there are rabbit trails every few feet. And I started to go down the chestnut tree rabbit trail, but decided to back off because I had so much other stuff to do. But there is a ley line rabbit trail for chestnut trees. There is a spiritual significance to chestnut trees. I mean, every one of these we could go off on and do hours on each one. But also what came up is that ley lines have also been called fairy paths. Now, does that sound familiar? First show this season, fairy tales. According to folklore, a fairy path or passage or avenue or pass is a route taken by fairies, usually in a straight line between sites of traditional significance, such as fairy forts or Ross, a class of circular earthwork dating from the Iron Age, airy or eerie mountains and hills, thorn bushes, springs, lakes, rock outcrops, and Stone Age monuments. Ley lines and spirit paths, such as with corpse roads, have some similarities with these fairy paths. So, and the poet W.E. Yeats is quoted by saying, "The fairies dance in a place apart, shaking their milk-white feet in a ring." And so it seems like all roads are connected, I mean, here we are hearkening back to our fairy tale show. Yeah. Now, one of the most interesting things we want to We've already gone, oh crap, almost an hour and a half. So we're going to try to condense the rest of this, folks. We have a lot of
Hey,
a lot
Tom,
of stuff. Yeah.
with that being said, I have another call I've got to do at 4:30.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna
Okay.
step out of the room for half a second and grab something that I want to show you guys that was found on the
Okay.
property that relates to all of this. So keep chatting, but then I only got 5 more minutes.
Okay.
But I just got to share this with you.
I hear you. Well, thank you. This Davis Cushman wrote an article in May of 2009. He was asked to go look at some bees in a barn, and as they were there, he realized there were at least 3 colonies of bees in that barn, and he was confused as to why there would be these different colonies in one barn. And a friend of his suggested he check out ley lines. And so he went and got some dowsing rods and found out that 2 lines converged right at that barn. Now, Julie, you said you had something that was going to.
Yeah, this was kind of like
your house?
resistance at my old house. Long story short, I was having a new dock put in. We had already written several books on the house being haunted and the boats that were kind of that we could see ghost wise up and down the view, and the ghost of Messalina, who was, and it's a true story that we didn't know at the time when it was being written, that he was being brought, and a slave from Africa was brought up to, be there. Lo and behold, they're putting in the pilings for the dock, and this pops up.
Whoa.
Holy cow.
This piece.
Oh my God.
And it was about 10 feet underneath the muck in the mud. And so I held on to it for, I just had it analyzed 2 years ago. And I actually got to be on the History Channel with this artifact. And they dated it back to almost 250 years. And it came from the Sanafu tribe in Africa. Now, how it got to the bayou behind the house on Messalina, I don't know, unless Joseph Messalina brought it himself. And when he was killed behind the house, this was left.
Amazing. That is amazing. It looks kind of like a scarab.
It does. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's creepy. And I was like, no, it's a goddess piece, in my opinion. And when they looked at it, they said, no, it was revered this deity at that time. So, yeah, it's
it reminded me of a scarab beetle.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just from a top view, without seeing all the details, it's shaped like a scarab beetle.
That's the first thing that popped in my head when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so cool.
And Dagny, let me just say, because just because I do have those ethereal properties going on, you're quite a psychic person yourself, and your empathic properties coming through. I can't wait to see what you've drawn after this. I'm going to have to bid you guys a fair adieu so I can get on my other call.
Thank you, Julie, so much.
Oh my gosh, I'll join you guys every show. Thank you so much.
All right,
what an
we'll have you back on.
I hope so. And
All
I'll
right.
watch you. If you don't have me, I'll be watching.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
That was so cool. Wow, she was an amazing guest. Just the stories, my goodness. Well, like I said, we're at an hour and a half, and Lewis says thank you, Julie. But see, it's kind of like, remember the big deal they had going on with Saturday Night Live with all the guest hosts and everything?
Yeah.
Lewis and Julie and Kent and Al and Elizabeth are all in an elite group called a Strange Journey Special Guest. They're honorary ETs now. All right, as we close it down, one more story about the bees. The commenter on that article, a lady said that she had a couple of bee boxes set up, and her first season, nothing happened. She lost all her bees, and they went to went to, they had to decide whether they're going to do it the next season or not because it cost a lot of money. Well, they had heard something about ley lines, so they got out their dowsing rods and they found where the ley lines were at, and they were like half a football field away. But she's like, well, they weren't doing any good where they're at, so let's try them on the ley line. They went and put them on the ley line, and she said they had grown from, where's it at? My one hive, get this, my one hive turned into 4 within 2 months.
They were, she didn't even have enough equipment to keep up with how much they were producing.
Exactly. And the season before, 50 to 70 feet away, nothing. She couldn't do anything. Also, and Julie mentioned this, the healing power of ley lines. Kayla Manine, in her article, Tap into the Healing Power of Ley Lines, states, ley lines are said to give off high-frequency vibrations, which can be felt by people and animals alike. A sense of contentment and an unexplainable connection to the land are both signs that you could be tuning into the line's vibrational energy. The longer you're around them, the more easily you can tap into their healing property. Now, something I came across in my research, and again, I'm trying to wind this down, folks. There's still a lot of information. The rabbit trails off of ley lines are immense. Geomancy, I mentioned this in the story about the Malabar farm. Geomancy is an ancient form of divination which involves either the scattering of handfuls of soil, earth, or other materials on the ground, or markings made in the earth or sand, in order to make a range of dot configurations which then can be read by a seer. In some of our research, I came across where people who follow or map out ley lines are called geomancers. Now, this was one of the forbidden arts that the Christian church put out several hundred years ago. Geomancy was one of the forbidden ones. Feng Shui is related because which literally means wind and water. It's an ancient Chinese system of creating harmonious surroundings to ensure health, happiness, and prosperity. And I've heard, reading through these articles, that Feng Shui masters use ley lines, and where they, how's it saying? It was a task of the geomancer to locate and interpret these lines and their influences on the land through which they passed, so they could set up the best situation for everything. All right. Now, a couple of quick stories. Every time somebody flips a paper, I hear every
I wonder how much knowledge we've lost over time about these ley lines.
Oh my God!
Because the Egyptians and the Greeks and the South American tribes seem to know a lot about them.
Oh yeah. All right, I found on a BBC website, it was an article about Gloucester Ley Lines we were talking about earlier, and this person commented and said, I was having many problems in many areas of my life and called in a Feng Shui expert into my home, and he found 2 parallel ley lines running through my house. They both went directly through the bed my elder daughter slept in, and I was informed that this would cause headaches, insomnia, and possibly mental illness. She had all these, not just slightly, but severely. Also, the corner of the rooms where they enter the house, the plaster is badly cracked, and it's a new house. None of the other walls are cracked. Nobody sleeps in that back bedroom now, and my daughter, who lives elsewhere, is making a good recovery after losing many years of her life and youth.
Wow.
So she was experiencing the negative sides of a ley line.
Which they say some are positive, some are negative.
Exactly.
Intersections.
I'll skip that one. There was one other thing I wanted to get to before we closed out. Excuse me. I was wondering, how many of you ever heard of the Van Allen radiation belts? Now, a Van Allen radiation belt is a zone of internetic charged particles, most of which originate from the solar wind, that are captured and held around the planet and our magnetic field. They're named after James Van Allen, who is credited with their discovery. Say by trapping the solar wind, the magnetic field deflects those energetic parties and protects the atmosphere from destruction. So I'm just wondering if these are connected somehow. And it's just kind of ironic that in this graphic that somebody made up, they chose the picture of the globe with lines all over it. Now, before we close out, one thing that's been mentioned time and time again is dowsing rods. You got two different types. You got the Y-shaped and the two L-shaped rods. And I have some here that we used on our tours in ghost hunting. Now, dowsing is a type of divination employed in attempts to locate groundwater, buried metals, or ores. But people also use them. They're known for water witching, for finding wells, but also in finding ley lines. They say if you walk across your property with the rods, they should cross at a ley line. Now, I was going to go into how to use them, but it's very simple, and you can find YouTube videos all over. You just hold them about a foot apart. It's different with the Y ones, okay? The Y ones are totally different, but basically these, you hold them about a foot apart and let them do their thing. And it's up to you whether you're influencing their movement or not. Now, and I've said this before, the only true and irrefutable evidence of the paranormal is personal experience. And when we used them on the tours, we let the people know, it's up to you. If you're influencing them, we can't tell. We just see dowsing rods moving. But basically, you hold them out there, and in ghost hunting, we use them for yes and no questions, or for just basically, are you here with us?
I want to try some. Never have.
All right, final thoughts, Lynn?
I had to turn the microphone back on.
Okay.
Ooh, that's cool, Daggy.
There's my ley lines pictures.
Nice. That's wild.
That's cool.
I plan to go over it with watercolor later and just really pop it.
Okay. All right. Make sure you post that. But Lynn, final thoughts.
I think it's interesting that, these places where if you draw a globe and you connect lines all around, they're going to cross. I just think it's interesting that they'll start over here and go around the world, but they go through specific places.
Yeah.
How hard is it even if you know where Stonehenge is, you can't stand in Atlanta, Georgia, and draw a line that's going to go right straight through the middle.
Right. Somebody did, though.
Yeah, but it's just interesting to me that they connect so much around the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Dagny, final thoughts.
I'm glad you touched on this subject because there's so much that we don't know that it's such a crazy spiral rabbit hole, and I needed someone else to look at it.
Yep.
Kind of organize it in my own head.
All right. Somebody commented there's one that goes right through Clarksville, Tennessee. Wow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that same person had posted a while ago that somebody believes that there's like one kind of like a stone circle, like Stonehenge thing that's under the water there at Loch Ness.
Oh, okay.
Huh.
That's my sister that's commenting.
Oh, hi, sis.
I'm so proud.
Well, like I said before, the rabbit trails, everything connected. I really wasn't expecting this when we opened the can of worms called Ley Lines, because everything's connected. But it's also amazing that how in the in the fairy show, we learned that what some people think might be a haunting or a ghost might have been a fairy. But I'm beginning to see also that ley lines can affect hauntings and different sightings. And, you know, as we go back and probably do another ghost hunting show, we're going to have to add in all these things we're picking up, because fairies could be a part, ley lines could be a part. You know, the energy that's trapped in a ley line, or a ley line is giving off a vortex.
Like
There's
I said,
just
so much we don't know.
right, exactly. And so, I mean, the next ghost hunting show we want to do, I want to get Elizabeth Parker back and talk about mediums and empaths and the way they function in paranormal investigations. But I will probably have to bring in fairies and ley lines
And
in
ghosts
that show as
and
well.
aliens and
Yeah,
it's all beginning to converge. Maybe they're all connected and we just don't know
they
why
must
or
be.
how.
All these strange journeys are all intersecting here. Well, guys,
All
thank
roads
y'all
lead
for
to
being
Rome.
here. I guess so. Thank y'all for being here today with us, guys. All right, Dagny, show them that mug again. Nobody saw it. You can get that in the merch store. Please remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you guys for being here. And thank you for Julie. I hate you had to leave early, but she had other obligations. See y'all in 2 weeks. We're with Lewis Powell and talking about Bridges of Sorrow. Goodbye.